So, Case encouraged spiritual progression before becoming a bishop. How does this reflect inner growth over titles? Gurudev says, grow inwardly before you grow outwardly. Pope Case says, structured spiritual stages of vision echoed in art of living courses from happiness program to DSN to Sanyam level 1 and level 2 and silence retreats. Leadership is built not on ambition but on inner mastery. His approach mirrors ashram dharma progressing through life stages of Upanayanam, Sandhya Vandanam, and Gayatri Japa. Cultivate self discipline before one enters public service. KS's path was that of Adhyatmic tapas or spiritual discipline before responsibility. Pope Saint Marcellinus faced moral failure during persecution. How can spiritual practice aid leaders in regaining integrity? Even saints falter. What matters is how they return to truth. Gurudev emphasizes forgiveness, self reflection, and sadhana. Sahat Samadhi meditation reconnects leaders to their core, while Sudarshan Kriya clears guilt and shame. Integrity isn't being perfect, it's about being anchored. In Sandhya Vandanam, we chant Apuhista to wash away impurities. Daily Gayatri Japa clears karma and gives clarity. Marcellinus' journey reflects the Agni principle, even impure ghee, when poured into sacred fire, is purified. Pope Marcellus restructured such discipline. How does structure arise from spiritual vision? Structure without spirit is dry, and spirit without structure is chaos. Gurudev built global service through inner silence like Marcellus. We need clarity from meditation to design effective systems. Sehat Samadhi meditation builds the intuitive vision to balance discipline with compassion. Vedic rituals are structured, not rigid, but rhythmic. Marcellus applied this in leadership, Agni Karyam, Trikalsam, then Gayatri Japa, instill inner order which reflects outwardly in systems that uphold dharma. He was a spiritual architect guided by tapas. So Eusebius was exiled for upholding penance rules. How can spiritual clarity help leaders stand firm amidst opposition? Eusebius upheld dharma even when it cost him comfort. Gurudev says the strength to walk alone comes from silence, Sudarshan Kriya, and Sahat Samadhi meditation give inner stamina to follow one's principles calmly. Eusebius' solitude became his sanctuary like our silence program, where truth becomes luminous. Eusebius acted like a tapasvi in exile. The Vedas honor those who protect purity of tradition over popularity. His leadership resonates with Trikal Sandhya, invoking the divine past, present, and future to guide action. Agni Karyam in such moments purifies emotional upheaval and sharpens moral clarity. Pope Miltiades saw the end of Christian persecution under Constantine. How should leaders receive newfound freedom? Victory often tests character more than defeat. Gurudev reminds us success should make you more humble, not arrogant. Miltiades' peaceful approach mirrors how we teach contentment and vigilance. Post breakthrough, Shakti Kriya builds quiet energy to handle big shifts with grace. When persecution ended, the Kshatriya Dharma transformed into Brahmic balance. Sandhya Vandanam aligns one with the sun's grace, calm, bright yet still. Miltiades says practice this energy inwardly. Agni Karyam at sunrise after victory is not celebration. It's renewal and prayerful awareness of responsibility. Sylvester led during the first council of Nicaea, yet remained modest. How does humility preserve spiritual power? Sylvester stayed behind the scenes, letting truth shine. Gurudev teaches true leader empower, not overpower. Sahat Samadhi meditation cultivates such vastness where one can let go of spotlight. Sylvester's greatness lay in allowing dharma to work through him, like Guru Puja, where ego dissolves into lineage. He resembled a Rajarishi, a king sage who governs from silence. Upanayanam grants inner light, and Sylvester bore that light in stillness. Gayatri Japa, when done with humility, attracts grace without seeking it. His role teaches us that leadership doesn't need noise to be powerful. Jai Gurudev, so Pope Saint Mark emphasized liturgical unity. How can sacred rituals build spiritual strength in leaders? Rituals ground us. Gurudev often says rituals are the body of the formless. Marx's insistence on unity reflects Art of Living's attention to rhythm, be it breathing, chanting, or group sadhana. Sudarshan Kriya too is a moving liturgy of the breath. Mark acted like a Vedahota, priest preserving the sanctity of sacred rhythm. Sandhya Vandanam and Agni Karyam are not mere formalities, they are powerhouses of alignment. Marx's work is similar to how the Rishi Marga keeps society spiritually tuned to cosmic vibrations. Pope Saint Julius defended orthodoxy during the Arian controversy. How can a leader balance logic and inner experience? Julius had sharp intellect but deeper wisdom. Gurudev encourages Vivek or discernment and Shraddha or faith to go together. Sahat Samadhi meditation opens experiential insight while Seva sharpens practical logic. Julius stood by truth because it felt right, not just sounded right. Nyaya and Vedanta both shaped his decisions. He was like a dharmic judge. Gayatri Japa activates both hemispheres of the brain, clarity and creativity. His approach reflects a big Vedic seers who combined inner experience of Anubhava with the outer analysis or Vichara. Jagadev Pope Liberius was exiled yet did not yield to imperial pressure. How can spiritual practice build unshakable resolve? Gurudev says a yogi is unaffected by praise or blame. Liberius embodied that equanimity. Sudarshan Kriya clears the emotional fog that clouds decision making. Silence retreats build inner strength, so even when the world is chaotic, the heart remains centered. He was a Dharma Yoddha fighting without anger. Sandhya Vandanam trains the intellect daily to withstand distractions. Upanayam gives us spiritual armor, while Trikal Sandhya makes one aware that truth eventually triumphs. Liberius was truly initiated not just ritually but in spirit. Pope Saint Damasus Damasus promoted the Latin Bible and honored martyrs. How do language and legacy influence spiritual evolution? Damasus made the truth accessible, just like Gurudev offers wisdom in simple, universal language. Translating truth is a service. Satsang, wisdom talks, and Bhakti Sutra sessions create bridge across cultures. His honoring of martyrs reflects gratitude as spiritual power. Damasus was like a Vyasa compiling and organizing Gayatri Japa when taught in one's mother tongue, and reverence becomes even more potent. Honoring martyrs is like a Tarpanam, connecting to spiritual ancestors who sacrifice sustain us. Jaguar poem Saint Siricius issued the first known papal decree. How does a sacred decision making emerge from silence? Gurudev shares that decisions made in silence are divinely guided. Siricius brought order through inner clarity. Sahat Samadhi meditation and Shakti Kriya help leaders access a space beyond thought. Siricius didn't impose, he revealed a deeper order through sadhana born insights. Like a Vedic lawgiver, Siricius laid dharmic boundaries with compassion. Agnikaram teaches us balance, structure, and surrender. His decrees resemble the Smriti Granthas, not born from rigidity but realized wisdom. Such governance is a tapobal se utpanna, born from spiritual strength. Jagudev, Pope Saint Anastasius I. Anastasius condemned the spiritual corruption and Gnostic elitism. How do daily practices keep ego in check? Gurudev reminds us the ego loves exclusivity, the spirit loves and celebrates inclusion. Anastasius protected purity through simplicity, daily Sudarshan Kriya, and Padma Sadhana break egoic patterns. His stand was not against knowledge, but knowledge without humility. True jnana comes from adhyatma, not arrogance. Gayatri Japa recited with ego becomes noise, with power it becomes light. Anesthesius is re-established that difference. Upnanam initiates humility first, knowledge later. Like a true Vedic guru, he restored Vidya with Vinaya, learning with humility. Pope Saint Innocent Innocent defended the church's authority with strength and compassion. How can spiritual leadership remain firm yet loving? Gurudev often says, be strong in your stand, soft in your heart. Innocence's firmness came from compassion, not control. Shakti Kriya builds such inner authority. Seva and Satsang keep the heart open so that power never becomes oppression. He embodied Dharma Raja energy, justice with lava. Sandhya Vandanam trains leaders to align with cosmic truth. Agni Karam shows us how fire, firm and fierce, is still worshipped. Innocence's leadership glowed with the warmth of fire and the depth of silence. Would you, Jagadev, so Pope Saint Josimus initially supported Pelagianism but later reserved his reversed his position. How do spiritual practices help leaders correct course without ego? Gurudev teaches the ability to admit a mistake is a sign of strength. Zosimus' humility to revise his judgment shows he was led by higher wisdom, not pride. Practices like Sahat Samadhi meditation open inner clarity. When mind is settled, corrections feel natural, not shameful. Vedic rishis also revised hymns when deeper insight arose. This is Rishi Dharma. Trikal Sandhya sharpens intuition to see where one straight. Zosimus's U-turn reflects Upanayam's inner fire, burning ego so truth shines brighter. He was brave enough to be truthful. Jagadev, so Boniface was elected and amid the conflict and confusion, how can spiritual grounding help resolve leadership disputes? Boniface was calm in turbulence. Gurudev reminds us inner silence ends outer conflict. A leader with deep Sudarshan Kriya practice does not react, they respond. Boniface didn't escalate tensions, he harmonized. This is the fruit of daily sadhana. In Vedantic leadership, peace is a higher victory than dominance. Boniface upheld this. Agnikarya offers clarity amidst confusion. Like invoking divine light during storms, his leadership was a mantra in motion, truthful, stable, and sattvic. Jagadev. So Pope Saint Celestine defended orthodoxy and sent missionaries like Saint Patrick. How do spiritual leaders ignite transformation in others? Celestine didn't preach alone; he empowered others. Gurudev says a true leader creates more leaders. He passed light, not just instructions. Practices like Shakti Kriya awaken leadership energy. His mentorship was based in spiritual radiance, not management. He was like a Vedic acharya, initiating others into light. Upanayana means leading to the innervation. Celestine gave that Gayatri Japa done by those he trained spread divine clarity across lands. He sowed dharma beat seeds of light. Jayadev Pope Sixtus built churches and healed divisions after the Council of Ephesus. How can sacred space and beauty support inner healing? Building sacred spaces is not just architecture, it's energy design. Gurudev emphasizes ambience that nurtures the soul. Sixtus III created more than stone structures. He crafted spaces for silence, prayer, and joy, like our art of living ashrams, where Padma Sadhana briefs the inner lotus to bloom. In Vedic Parampara and Sampradaya, sacred spaces are built on Vastu and Sankalpa. Sixtus acted as a Yajman, channeling divine vision into material form. Agni-Karyam and Trikal Sandhya in such temples charge him eternally. His churches become chakras of collective healing. Jagadeva Pope Saint Leo won the Great. Leo courageously met Attila, the Hun, and preserved Rome. How do spiritual practices build fearless compassion? Leo combined gentleness with power. Gurudev teaches a peaceful mind is the most powerful weapon. Sehat Samadhi builds that inner reservoir of courage. Leo faced destruction not with arms but with aura. His fearlessness came from connection to the divine, not strategy. Leo acted like Durga with a smile like Shakti and Karuna. Shakti Kriya and Gayatri Japa awaken the divine radiance like Devi confronting Mahishasura. Leo's presence tamed egoic aggression. Such strength is born from austerity, not aggression. Jagudev Saint Pope Saint Hilarious. Hilarious defended papal independence and maintained balance amid political tension. How does a stillness lead to wise boundaries? Hilarious exemplified firmness without friction. Gurudev often says, you can say no with a smile. That's the result of deep Sudarshan Kriya and Satsang. Hilarious stood tall like a mountain but never lost his inner peace. In Rajadharma, boundaries are sacred. Sandhya Vandanam refines intellect daily, making it sharp like a vajra or diamond. Hilarious knew where to yield and where to stand firm. His resolve reflects the Mahabharata hero, spiritually trained, emotionally free. Simplicius, Pope Saint Simplicius guided the church during the fall of the Western Roman Empire. How can spiritual leaders guide others through collapse? Gurudev teaches when the world shakes, become the sky. Simplicius was a sky-like presence during Rome's disintegration. Silence retreat, Shakti Kriya, and Sahat Samadhi expand awareness. So no one is shaken by the temporary. He offered stillness, not strategy, like a rishi in Kali Yuga. Simplicius preserved light during decay. Recalls and there reminds us the eternal is untouched by worldly fall. Even when Rome crumbled, Simplicius upheld Sanatana Dharma through love, poise, and prayer. Jagadev Saint Felix III. Felix opposed heresies and clarified church positions. How do spiritual practice strengthen discernment? Felix knew the difference between truth and appearance. Gurudev says, don't go by the words, feel the vibration. That subtle discernment grows through Gayatri Japa, Sahat Samadhi meditation, and deep listening. Felix embodied Viveka Shakti, spiritual discrimination. Upanayana opens the third eye of discernment. Felix had that vision. Like a tapasvi, he stood for dharma without anger. His clarity came from Jnana Yoga, truth revealed in the heart. He showed that pure perception is the root of pure leadership. Jagadev, so Pope Gelasius separated church and state while maintaining moral authority. How can spiritual leaders remain influential without control? Gurudev teaches let go of control, hold on to values. Gelasius didn't crave political power, he radiated moral power. Practices like satsang, seva, and sehet samadhi meditation help leaders influence through presence, not possession. This is how wise detachment works. Like the Vedic Rishi Rajya model, Gelasius led from within. His dharmic separation echoes Ram Rajya, where spiritual guidance directed governance without dominating it. Sandhya Vandanam kept him inwardly aligned, while Agnikara maintained the purity of his sankalpa or intent. Pope Anastasius sought reconciliation but was misunderstood. How can spiritual leaders maintain inner peace when misjudged? Gurudev says, when your intention is pure, time will prove you right. Anastasius tried to unify, but his gesture was seen wrongly. Sudarshan Priya helps release the pain of being misinterpreted. Silence and satsang offer refuge in such times. Vedic sages too were misjudged, yet they didn't waver. Recall Sandhya teaches us that the vision of unity must sometimes pass through misunderstanding. Anastasius is carried that cross with grace like a true yogi. Jagdev's Semachus endured accusations and rival claimants to the papacy. How can spiritual practices help endure false blame without breaking? Gurudev often says truth is unshakable even when accused. Semachus withstood false charges and political pressure by resting in his own integrity. Sudarshan Kriya and Sahat Samadhi meditation develop that resilience when breath and mind are steady. Slander cannot touch your essence. He reminds me of Sita in Ashoka Vatika. Serene despite injustice, Gayatri Japa purifies inner peace. Sandhya Vandanam keeps a spiritual leader aligned with higher truth, not external opinions. Simachus' tapas was silence like a muni rooted in dharma. Jagadev, so Hormisdas healed the Acacian schism and restored unity with the Eastern Church. What practices help spiritual leaders heal deep divisions? Unity is born in stillness. Gurudev teaches, when your heart is clean, your world unite. Hormisdas' letters were not political, they were energetic, flowing from silence and compassion. Regular Padmasatna and Seva developed the softness to unify without force. Like a rishi in dialogue, Hormisdas harmonized East and West, recalls and they expands one's vision across boundaries of time and culture. He practiced Shama or forgiveness like a mantra, and that became his bridge through inner tapas. He rewove the spiritual fabric. Jagadish, Pope John I died in prison after negotiating peace with the king. How does sacrifice become a spiritual offering in leadership? Gurudev reminds us sacrifice brings depth to the soul. Pope John I sacrificed comfort and even life to uphold peace. When done from love, not martyrdom, such sacrifice becomes divine. Sudarshan Kriya, Seva, and Sahat Samadhi meditation make the heart vast enough for such offerings, like Bhishma Pitama on the bed of arrows. Pope John's body was imprisoned but his spirit free. Agni Karyam is the ritual of conscious offering. He lived that his death became a yagya, a fire of dharma that still radiates light. Pope Felix IV focused on securing the line of succession to preserve church unity. How does spiritual succession work in ancient traditions? In the Guru Shishya Parampara, succession is not about possession but about preserving vibrations and wisdom. Felix acted like a wise guru, choosing a deserving disciple. Gurudev teaches us to pass on light, not authority, through satsang and wisdom series. This continues globally. In Vedic culture, the Upanayam ceremony marks the start of one's role in preserving lineage. Felix ensured the flow of dharma. Just as Gayatri Mantra is passed with great sanctity, so too is the role of spiritual shepherd. His foresight was a tapasya. Pope Boniface II. Boniface was the first Germanic pope and faced controversy over his election. How can spiritual practices help a leader navigate inherited conflict? Gurudev says, don't carry the past as a burden, use it as a fertilizer. Boniface walked into a mess, but his sincerity and meditative steadiness brought balance. Shakti Kriya can transform conflict born heaviness into vibrant strength. He held a space with a deep prana. In Mahabharata, Abhimanyu entered a battlefield he didn't create, yet he stood tall. Sandhya Vandanam brings daily purification of karma and emotion. Boniface showed that inherited karma doesn't define your leadership. Sankalpa and sadhana do. John II was the first pope to change his name. How does identity shift play a role in spiritual evolution? That's beautiful. Taking on a new name signifies ego transcendence. Gurudev often renames seekers in advanced stages because identity shifts inward. John II symbolized rebirth. Sehet Samadhi meditation helps peel off the mask. His renaming was a spiritual realignment, not politics. In Upanyanam, a boy is reborn not as a Dvija twice born. New name, new mantra, new life. Similarly, John II became a Navayogi, taking refuge in a higher name. His leadership was a tapas of humility and remembrance. Pope Agapetus traveled to Constantinople and influenced the emperor's decision in theological matters. How do spiritual leaders influence rulers? Gurudev says, when your presence is strong, words are few. Agapetus' courage and clarity touched an emperor not by debate but by presence. Such presence comes from satsang meditation and aparigraha or non attachment. He reads stillness like Rishi Vasishta advising King Dashratha. Agapeta spoke truth without fear. Gayatri Japa amplifies one's subtle voice across great halls. When Dharma walks into a palace, even King spoke. He was Vedic diplomacy. His was Vedic diplomacy rooted in Satya, not strategy. Silverius was deposed and exiled yet kept his faith. How do spiritual practices support inner dignity amid political betrayal? Gurudev says, let your self respect rise from your connection to the divine, not from position. Silverius' ousting didn't destroy him because his roots were deep. Sahat Samadhi meditation and silence retreats awaken Nishchal Sthiti or unshakable centeredness like Lord Rama in exile. Silverius' spiritual royalty remained. His exile became a forest of sadhana. Trikalsandya reminds us that outer fate is Maya, but inner Brahma Tejas is forever. He didn't fall, he rose higher silently. Pope Vigilius's papacy was marked by controversy and difficult theological debates. How can leaders hold paradox without collapse? Vigilius held tensions like a yogi in fire and ice. Gurudev says, when the breath is with you, opposites cannot shake you. Practices like Sudarshan Kriya and Shakti Kriya build this capacity to carry dualities and not be torn by them. Vigilius reminds us of Arjuna and torn yet ultimately guided by divine light. Agnikaram represents walking through fire with purity. Vigilius was tested, but each paradox carved depth into his consciousness. His leadership became a living yajna. Jai Gurudev. So Pope Pelagius I took office after Justinian's brutal campaign and had to restore credibility. How does a spiritual leader restore trust after trauma? Restoration begins inside. Gurudev teaches the heart heals when it opens. Pelagius wasn't just a pope, he became a healer through compassion, humility, and steady sadhana. He brought people together like a yogi bringing back balance after collapse. Just like Suma rituals rehydrate the cosmic body, Pelagius nourished the wounded system. Gayatri Japa, Sandhya Vandanam, and Satsang are powerful tools for systemic healing. His calmness revove trust not by preaching, but by presence. He became a Kshatriya and Rishi in one body. Jai Gurudev. Pope John III governed during the Lombard invasions. How can a spiritual leader guide people through chaos and external threats? Gurudev says, in times of fear, be the lighthouse. John III didn't run or retaliate, he anchored. Sudarshan Kriya builds this resilience in leaders, making breath the bridge between panic and poise. He served with unwavering calm and a divine trust. He was like a Krishna in Kurukshetra guiding silently amidst war. Trikalsandya kept him anchored in cosmic time, not temporal fear. Through Agnikaram, he offered a fear and created spiritual protection. His very silence was a kavach or an armor. Pope Benedict I led amid the famine and war. What inner practices empower leaders to nourish a starving society? Gurudev reminds us wherever there is service, there is abundance. Benedict gave from scarcity and open channels of grace daily Padma Sadhana and Seva. Purify poverty consciousness, he embodied the Yajna spirit, giving without expecting return. Like a Rishi Durvasa fed by Draupadi's last grain, Benedict's faith created divine supply. Gayatri Japa and Sandhya Vandanam draw pranic food for the soul. Benedict's life was a tapas not of repentance, but of nurturing through spiritual strength. Pope Pelagius